Hey guys, welcome back to another Wyman video. Today we got the Honcho up here on the workbench, and we're going to throw a new motor in this thing. And I'm going to switch it from a 35 to a 20 turn motor, and it's a pretty easy, simple, straightforward process to do. So we're going to get right to it and get this thing apart, and I'll show you how to do this step by step. So stay tuned. I swung by the hobby shop earlier today and picked up this guy here, 20 turn motor. This Honcho comes stock with 35 turn, and in my original Honcho, it's got a 27 turn with an FXR, capable of running 3-cell, and that it's pretty fast. It's got quite a bit of wheel speed, and it's a lot of fun to drive, and it's actually a lot more fun to drive than this truck. I've been a little bored with this truck. It hasn't really excited me all that much. I mean, it's a cool little truck, but it could be a little more fun. One of the things I really loved about the Honcho, the original Honcho, was it was the first truck that I had that was kind of a truck that you could just go out and beat on and have a good time with. And I kind of was hoping for the same thing out of this truck, and it's just not. This 35 turn it's not fast enough. Doesn't have enough wheel speed. You know, I just want to have a little more fun with this guy. So I'm gonna crank him up a little bit. We're gonna put the Binford to it. You know, and there's gonna be a lot of guys that don't know what that is, but there's gonna be a few guys that know exactly what that is. So to get at this guy, basically you're gonna start out. You're gonna drop your drive lines out of here, and it's just gonna be these little pins right here. And some of the earlier RC rock crawlers and stuff, they used the 2 grub screws that came in on the shaft, and you're constantly fighting to tighten them down, keep them tight, lock tight, whatever you can to keep them from stripping out and rounding out the shaft. And so a lot of the newer trucks have gone to this setup here where they've got the pin that goes all the way through, and I actually prefer this a lot more. You start throwing a lot of power at them, and yeah, that hardened shaft with a hole through it, you're probably gonna break that. But I'm not stuffing that much power to this thing. 11.1 with a 20 turn, it's not gonna have the torque required for snapping a hardened shaft like that. So I'm not too concerned about that. So first what you're going to do is you're going to pop those out, and once you've got those out, then you're going to flip the truck over, and you're going to start on the underside. And then once you got the truck rolled over, you're going to take, it's just going to be these 3 screws right here, or 4 screws, excuse me. So you just run these guys out one at a time, and make sure you're keeping track of them. Put them in a little tray, little magnetic tray. That's actually my preferred method, but I've got enough projects going on right now that I just don't have a one that's not being used. So I've got this little plastic tray over here that I actually made for my 3D printer that I'm using for now. But just to keep track. And I do auto body for a living, and I take a lot of cars apart and put them back together, and it always disturbs me when I can tell that somebody's been in a car before, because you pop it open and sure enough there's hardware that's mismatched all over the place. You go to take something off the course port, and you look across the top of the car, and the course port, if it goes into a plastic part like a headlight or a grill or something like that, it's a non-painted screw. But then when you've got a piece that was assembled prior to the car being painted from the factory, the screw's painted. So if you're going to put a car back together, put the hardware back where it goes. So just keep track of your hardware. My point is, I guess, is keep track of your hardware when you're taking stuff apart. And what goes where. And it's always it's always a good thing to pull them out and have a look at them, and actually look at them next to the other ones, and make sure that you don't have any that are different lengths. So that's another tip for you there too. So once you got those 4 screws out and you flip this thing over, it pretty much just falls right out of there. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to track down your little plugs right here. These are just little bullet connectors or banana connectors, or however you want to say those. Sometimes they're a pain to get apart, sometimes they're not. So the first one you saw popped apart really easy. Second one, not so much. But yeah, just unplug those guys like that. Now that you got your truck moved out of the way, you're going to locate the screws in the front of this to figure out what you need to take off. And on this one here, it looks like all we're going to need to take off is the spur gear cover, and it's just going to be these 2 screws right here. Now, the older spur gear covers were 3 screw. This one looks to just be the 2. So we're going to pop that guy off. And this transmission here, I haven't had this one apart yet, but from what I've seen, they're a fully plastic body transmission. There's not even a aluminum motor plate in here like the old ones were. And the aluminum motor plate in the old ones were these guys right here. That was the motor plate in the old ones. And yeah, this one's quite a bit different. They don't even have that no more. So it used to be this guy bolted to your transmission like so, and then your motor bolted in there like so. But they got away from that. It must be a manufacturing deal. It's probably kind of expensive to have one of these stamped out, and they can build the trucks cheaper by just going plastic. I'm not even sure. Seems like a really hard plastic. Hear that? Yeah. Just some stiff plastic. I wonder what this plastic even is. Because you know, you look at your little parts bag. I was noticing this earlier when I was talking about some of the parts in this thing, and I noticed on the new one. Excuse me, dropping stuff. I noticed on the new one that, and I noticed it because I was checking out. And this is another tip for you. Look in that bag. There's this little, it's a little 3-piece like ammo can deal that you can bolt together and have a little scale ammo can that says Axial on it. But I was noticing that this ammo can thing here is, see how rubbery this plastic is? Super rubbery. Okay, and it's all of it. All of the plastic that came with this kit is super rubbery, and I don't remember the older ones being super rubbery like that. So they've changed the plastics in this, and you know, the stuff it's not real stout. I mean, you can cut it really easy. See that? It's yeah. So it's kind of weird. Different plastics that they're using now, and then you get into this guy here, and this is a totally different plastic. You know, this is super soft, rubbery, super hard. Yeah, this is a glass fiber reinforced plastic. You know, stuff that your tools are going to be made out of. You know, like your rigids and stuff like that. The clamshell on this is a glass fiber reinforced, and you can tell because it's got that. You can actually hear the fibers cutting as you slice into it, and that's what this is here. You can actually hear it. Yeah, you're actually cutting fiber there. So yeah, that's a pretty gnarly plastic they use there. It's cool. But yeah, they do it just so they don't have to stamp out this guy, and that's probably, like I said, probably an expensive part. This is actually an older one. I think this is out of like an old AX kit, AX10 kit, I think is what this guy actually came from. So you can see there's no, that was back before they even had the spur gear covers. You know, all the older trucks didn't have the spur gear cover, so your spur gear was just you know, flinging around there, out there in the wind. So, you know, when you're being a moron and pick up your truck and not paying attention, you run your finger across the spur gear and end up with a nice little scar from it. That's why they threw the spur gear covers on there. Keep dumbasses like me from sticking our fingers in it. But yeah, then to pull this guy out, we're just going to take these 2 screws out of here. Maybe we'll take the 2 screws out of here. Jesus. And those are neat little screws too. I like those. Nice big head on them. Lots of clamping force. And then once again, hardware management. Yeah, all plastic. So the next step is take our pinion gear off. And I'm finding on this truck, on the SCX10 too, that most of this stuff is all the same size hardware. You know, the grub screws are the same size throughout. You know, same size as all the other hex screws in here. So you know, this is actually kind of nice. This is like working on a Chinese or a Japanese car. You know, you could take apart a Honda with a 12 millimeter and a little pry tool, a 10 millimeter, a 12 millimeter, and a little pry tool. You can take apart pretty much the whole damn car, and then you go and you work on a Ford or something like that, and you might as well roll your toolbox over to it and just dump your toolbox out on the floor, because that's what it's going to look like when you're done, because every screw you turn is going to be a different size. Not the case on this. This is pretty nice. I like this. Way to go, Axial. And then the motor shaft has a flat spot in it for your grub screw to sit on, and that's actually how the older drive shafts were. So then we're going to take our new motor and just start reversing the process. You know, I didn't even take the grub screw all the way out because there's no reason to. And actually, you probably don't want to set your grub screw on this thing until you get the motor mounted all the way back in. That's it's probably going to be best practice on that. And as you're assembling this guy, you just look for how this is going to look the best installed. You know, mind your wires. You can actually install this a couple of different ways. If you look at this guy, it'll key in. Where are my holes at? Okay, so it'll key in like this, and that puts your motor like so, or it'll key in 180 degrees like this, puts your wires like so. You know, you get the Axial logo on the side, or you can do the Axial logo with the 20 turn, so you can see how many turns your motor is. Just, you know, have a look at it, see how you like it to fit, and then go from there. I think on this one I'll put the 20 turn out. Yeah, I kind of like the logo on the side though. It's kind of neat. Looks like somebody spent some time to make that little logo. I think I want to see that. And then we're gonna make sure that we get the same screws back into the same holes. Now, at this point, you just kind of want to run those in. You don't really want to tighten them up too much, because we're going to adjust some things here and get this motor fully set in here nice and tight. And to do it right, you just kind of need stuff just kind of set in here for now. And then, as you can see, to adjust your gearing, this guy's gonna go to and fro. It looks like they do. They got like a little index. That's kind of neat. Check that out. So they got a little index guy in here in the side of the case to capture this grub screw right here. Look at that. Huh. It's kind of cool. So, give these just a little tweak out. This guy fitting in here. And you'll see a ton of guys say that, oh yeah, you need to take a piece of paper and run a piece of paper through there and make sure that your gear mesh is correct and yada 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 and blah 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 and go fuck your hat. But I like to highball it. So I like to get my mesh and my gear set nice and flush, and then take a gander at her, and you should see just a little bit of space between the gears. That's actually just a little too much. So right in there somewhere. And then what you're going to do is, because these are going to move just a hair once you snug all this up, so you get this guy snug back into place. And you just want to snug it up for now, because what we're going to do is we're going to spin him. And you pretty much want to make a full rotation or two, just to make sure that there's not any wobble spots in the gear and any crunchiness in there, which this is actually pretty smooth. It's going to make a little bit of a whine at first, but it'll wear in. And yeah, you can say, well, it's already been ran, the gears should be worn in together, but I'm not that critical, and I'm not going to go get a piece of paper to do it. It doesn't need to be done. So, I'll just make sure those are good and snug, because there ain't nothing worse than taking something apart, doing a bunch of work, getting it all back together, going out for a run with some buds, and your shit done falls apart because you didn't snug it. Screw back in the case, spur gear cover, put that back on. You don't want one of those ugly scars. Though you could just not put your fingers where they're not supposed to be. That's what my wife tells me all the time anyway. So there you have it. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to install this guy back in the truck. There's a couple little tricks to installing this guy back in the truck. One, when you take the transmission out, your drive shafts are gonna come apart. Your rear drive shaft is a 3-piece drive shaft. Your front drive shaft is also, is it a 3-piece on this one? It is also a 3-piece drive shaft. Your front drive shaft will actually go into the truck with the transmission mounted. You can actually get the transmission in there and then connect your front drive shaft. Your rear drive shaft, you cannot. So do not install this and then try to put your rear drive shaft back on. It's not going to happen. You're going to be taking it back apart. So the next step is we're going to take this guy here, slides into here like so. This guy here slides into this guy here like so. Now what you're going to want to do is you're most definitely going to want to take this guy and slide this guy onto here. Maybe. Come on. Do I need to spit on it? Like so. And then you get your little shafted grub screw. And he's going to go in the hole like so. Get her snugged up. Helps put it in the right way. Maybe. I did have it the right way. Son of a... Okay. Back on track. We'll just edit that out later. I didn't screw up. Just like that. And then make sure you got all the pieces to your front drive shaft. No, can't go that way. That one can go in after this is bolted down. The rear one cannot. Flip this guy over. Line up your holes. You need the tapered shaft, tapered screw. So, there's 4 of these guys. I did look. They don't appear to be different lengths. I did not pull out the calipers to check, but my eyeball says they're the same size. And if you get one just sort of snug, and then start the other ones, it makes life so much simpler. If you tighten the first one all the way down, you're probably not going to be able to get the other 3 in. So if you just slightly snug the first one, just enough to hold the tranny in place, and don't tighten any of them down until you have the last one in. And you can tighten these down cross pattern if you like. I don't think it's not going to matter on something this small. just like so. Flip them back over, and then just make sure you're black wire to black wire. Red wire to red wire. Man, that's kind of, these drive shafts are kind of a pain in my arse. The 3-piece thing is, you know, I understand why they do it, but it's kind of a pain. Could be worse. And then, so we don't make the same mistake twice, let's index these so that the threads are up, and we know the threads are up. That's going to go there. Make sure that your little pin is pushed in so that that captures over the top of it. There it is. I guess snugged up there. Don't over tighten it, you'll strip it. That's bad news. Don't want to do that. Snugged up there. Wires are plugged in. And then one thing I found that the horrible fraught's good for is cheap, good little zip ties. They, you know, you get a package of these for like $1 down at the horrible fraught. So there you go. I hate wires, and I really hate a spaghetti mess of freaking wires. So I'm going to tighten these up by doing a little loop here. So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking and looping this guy over right at my connectors just to pull up some of the slack, because I hate the spaghetti mess of wires. There we go. Now that you've got your 20-turn motor installed, throw a battery in her, plug her in, just like so. And this is kind of neat too, guys. This is the reverse version of the Team Wyman Scale Designs rear body mount. So the previous version, it slid on and then the body came down. Well, I reversed it around, so it makes it so that you can just drop this guy on here, lock it in like so, put the body down, 2 pins in the front, and you're good to go. Just like that, ready to play. So let's see how this motor does. right, so that was a lot of fun. Until next time, guys, I hope you liked the video. Check out Team Wyman Scale Designs on Facebook. I've got stuff on Shapeways as well. And until next time, like, subscribe, you know, do the standard stuff. And keep making cool stuff. And we'll see you on the next one.